We as a people have been suffering far too long at the hands of substance abuse. And if we do not do something about this problem, that problem is on us. And that's what this program is about. I'm Dr. Bynum, and this is Open Eyes. Today I want to introduce my guest. I have one of my former supervisors and my great Bible study teacher. Take a little time and introduce yourself, please.
Hi, I'm Hala May Brevard. I'm a Director of Resident Services in Harlem, licensed master social worker.
Okay, thank you.
I'm Minister James Jackson from the Union Grove Missionary Baptist Church here in the Bronx. Our pastor is Pastor Frederick Crawford.
Okay, welcome, both of you.
Thank you.
I'm honored to have both of you here today. So we're going to continue our series, Part 5, on an ongoing series on recovery in relationships. And the scenario Helen made was somebody in early recovery wanted to get in a romantic relationship. Of course, that's not advisable, but some people are going to go down that path. So we just try to come up with some, identify some relationship skills that might help them be successful in that endeavor. In the last show, we had gotten up to the skill of intimacy, and we had defined that as some ways to show emotional love. Okay, so we're going to continue from there. And what are some ways to increase intimacy? What are these things?
Wow. Getting to know someone,
Okay.
and the skill sets of getting to know someone is, not only asking of a question, but listening and hearing someone, and so intimacy, emotional, even intellectually, appreciating someone, and coming out of the lifestyle that I had, I had to identify intimacy differently than just the sexual part. You know what I mean? I had to learn to appreciate just being with someone, trusting someone, and being trustworthy. The reciprocal action of someone trusting you really pulls you into something really, really nice. You know what I mean? When you realize that someone trusts you, that they can relax. And an atmosphere takes over, So intimacy on this side of recovery and with a spiritual background is just really very wonderful. And it's far from sex. You know what I mean? Far is, So there are so many ways of people feeling comfortable, trusting someone to the point that you share. And I've learned to not just want to share, but be absolutely interested in someone else, to listen to them, and that creates intimacy that may never ever flourish into anything else. It could just be totally intellectual, we get here and we just open up and relax. It gets very, very intimate. It's fulfilling. You know what I mean? It's fulfilling. So intimacy has a lot of depth to it, and it's very, very, and we are made to be intimate.
Right.
The Lord says it's not good that man should be alone. But we take that as a physical joining oftentimes. But we join together on so many other levels that are really critical to our well-being and our comfort of our well-being. So.
Okay. Hillman?
Well, intimacy for me in early recovery was a process. Learning to build trust.
Right.
Learning to be comfortable, learning to be vulnerable, and open up with someone. It can be scary. So,
Yes.
it's a process. It's a learning process. And still today, it can be that way because I have to trust. I have to ask God to take over.
Yeah.
Take over. Yes, totally take over. It's really nice to have someone ask you, how was your day? From the heart.
Right.
You know, intimacy has to be reciprocated, but you must give it to yourself first.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah.
So I'm going to identify a few ways to also increase. I agree with everything you said here. To increase intimacy, you hit it on the word right there, trusting. So it's trusting deeply, right? And when you do that, what happens when you trust deeply is it allows you, as you already said, to be able to give yourself wholeheartedly into what you're doing.
Yeah.
And how do you do that? You mentioned it yourself by setting aside your fear, your doubts, your guards. You put your guards down. You put your heart on the table. You risk being vulnerable. You hold nothing back.
Yeah.
You're willing to take a chance, willing to take a chance, get hurt, and even willing to forgive, move on past that. So that's by trusting deeply. So the next question, is there any real life or a biblical example of someone in the Bible trusting deeply in a relationship?
Yeah. Well, biblically, Jesus, for instance, we mentioned being vulnerable and putting your heart out there for the sake of intimacy, and that's a difficult place to be, you know what I mean, to open yourself up to someone. But Jesus, I think it's in, I don't want to start quoting specific scriptures, but he says, if someone was to hit you on your cheek, turn and give them the other one. But what's not mentioned there is that he gives us spiritual support, that we don't rely, because instinct, somebody really smack you, your instinct is to go back and smack them and do something to reciprocate in the same vein. But he said, not evil for evil. So we learn that we are now spiritual beings, and we can operate from another place. So now what comes into play is that we learn that through his love, because we all railed against God, but yet God gave his only begotten son. And we take on that ability through when we receive his love to act in that same way. So now, as a second thought, sometimes we can not respond to someone who don't receive us well, because being in early recovery, people who knew me weren't always trusting of my motives. Now that I said I'm you know what I mean? So that smack in the face didn't seem like a smack to them, but you know, I was like, oh, because I done laid my heart out there, and you know, so people need that spiritual support, because the road of recovery, coming back into these things, especially past relationships or family, you know, it's fought with problems that with a spiritual support we survive well. All, I believe, will survive, but the road with having the Lord on your side is much more strategic and purposeful, because he has skill sets, you know, turning the other cheek. And you say, well, but why? He said, because the Lord turned the other cheek when you spit on him, when you warred against him, and that same power that was in him is now in you. So, and then most of all, he doesn't condemn. He says everybody doesn't sin.
Right.
You know, I was so happy when I stopped worrying about my mistakes and my errors to the degree that I would condemn myself or feel unworthy to be loved. And then that puts you in another shut-off position, you know. So, all
right. So we want to take a break right here at this time. Thank y'all. We'll be right back. Open eyes. Stay with us.
Listen.
All it took was someone who would insist that I just try.
Suddenly, everything was turned around because they judge you.
You tell them, I don't need this.
No one is going to understand.
Unless they've been through it, how can they?
Then one day you realize
You feel so hopeless.
I need help. I need help.
You feel so hopeless.
Then one day you realize,
Unless they've been through it, how can they understand?
I don't need this.
No one's going to judge you.
suddenly everything was turned around because they insist that I just try.
All it took was someone who would just
Listen.
This is what high blood pressure looks like. Talk with your doctor to create a treatment plan that works for you. Go to loweryourhbp.org.
Hey, welcome back to Open Eyes. We're going to continue our conversation. I'm going to ask a question about a biblical example of someone trusting deeply. For me, it's Jesus Christ trusting in his Father to resurrect him from the dead and complete that mission. And he had to have full faith that this was going to happen, because you know, we all know the story. So the next example of increase in intimacy is combining. Another way is to combine the aspirations, things that you're passionate about. So how would that two people combining? It could even be different things that they're passionate about, or they could be the same thing. So how does that increase intimacy?
Well, I think two people in recovery or coming into recovery has a common bond when they're going in the same direction.
Okay.
Which gives them both a light to go to. There's a light there. And it's always good when you have something in common with someone. You know, something that a goal, an aspiration, a thought, a guide.
Amen.
Yes.
Right, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, the Lord says, he says, how can two walk together unless they agree? Now, and what that means is that you have to, for me, I became a Christian. And so I needed someone that was on that Christian walk. They may not have ate the same thing I ate, and that was the truth. We ate differently. We're different. A lot of things were different, but we did both love the Lord. So we were able to walk together, and we found out a lot of other things weren't as important, but you need to agree on some core things, you know what I mean? And what that core thing had done was, I was careful not to do anything I had done before.
Right.
I had made up in my mind that pretty much everything I did was backwards, and when I found myself doing those things, I would stop. And so I found someone that was thinking that way. They were looking to do things differently. So we had a discovery path that was really phenomenal now that I look back at it, She ate pork, I didn't eat pork. I could go down a list of things that were different, but that fundamental thing that was that we didn't want that past life is what made us be able to walk together. And now we're about 25 years.
Wow.
And that common bond strengthens
Yeah.
that aspiration.
Yeah, and we've both crossed lines, and other things aren't as important anymore that I thought were critical. Because I had some rules and regulations, and all that stuff can be, but there has to be something that you are in agreement with,
Right.
And I was to walk with the Lord. And the Lord worked things out and brought us through storms and situations, and we were both relying on the same source for. So spiritually, that's important. You shouldn't, if you're in the church, don't go to the bar to find somebody. And vice versa. However, you can line that up. Yeah, I'm not talking denominations. I'm talking about people who love the Lord. You need to go that place. If you were looking to find the Coca-Cola perfect thing, you have to get that out of your mind. You know what I mean? If you were looking for Atlas, you had to get that out of your mind and say, well, Lord, I said, Lord, I don't even want to know the person's name. I just want you to say, that's it. And I'm going to say yes. I'm serious, because I just messed up, because everything I went for, I don't want to say it damaged me, but since it was my thinking, it didn't work out. Not to blame anybody else for what I put out there, because that's ultimately taking responsibility. I put stuff out there that drew certain things in, and I couldn't use that skill set anymore, because it didn't get me intimacy.
Right.
It got me all this other stuff that I got into.
So it does not necessarily have to be the same thing that you're passionate about. It could be she might be passionate, or he might be passionate about writing. Another person might be passionate about drawing. So let's do a project where we can combine our passion together. I like to write, you like to draw. Let's do a project together. Maybe we'll do a book. Maybe we'll do this. And that passion will spill into the relationship. Because you're both really
focus on that.
Yeah, and you're getting pleasure from it. So now we're doing it together.
Yeah.
So it's not always have to be the same. It could be opposite, but let's do it together. So another way to increase intimacy is being present, and we touched on that in the last show. And what does that do when you're present? When you show that you're not talking to you, I'm present.
Well, it shows that I'm understanding. It shows that I am here with you.
Right.
I'm not on my cell phone. I'm not into the television.
Right.
I'm here.
Right.
Yeah, and it's really important.
Yeah.
Because we have so many different activities to do today.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Very, very important. I found myself, I cut the TV off to let my granddaughter know that I'm listening to her. And what I discovered is that I really was listening to her, and I really, really got something out of it. You know what I mean? I learned something. You know what I mean? And you're right. We can't be multitasking. I mean, there are times when we have to multitask, but in a personal relationship, we should give it our very best, and you'll get the very best.
Yes.
You know, so yeah, paying attention and listening is one of the sweetest things, you know, because everybody got a sweet song in their heart, and if you listen close enough, you'll hear it.
That's right.
You'll hear it.
You gotta be listening.
You gotta be listening, and you have to work on that. You know, I don't know how to explain it well, but there's a value in it that if you pursue it, it'll be a blessing.
So it shows that, you know, when you're present, like you said, you're really interested. And how it's done is by paying attention when the person's speaking. And you like listen like they're the most important person in your life.
Absolutely. At that moment, for sure. Yeah.
Get right into it. With that said, we're going to take another break, and we'll be right back. Stay with us.
Nice.
I'll be right back. Hi! You think you're probably sober?
Yeah.
But you're thinking about taking the back roads home, just in case. If you're probably sober, then why would you do that? Good choice.
Probably okay isn't okay. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
That's a full glass of wine. I'll be chatting you later.
You're unstoppable. Nothing can throw you off track. Wait, is that your car? Uh-oh. Yeah, I saw that coming.
When they test you, stand firm and move only when you hear the seatbelt click that says they're buckled in for the drive. Never give up till they buckle up.
240 over 150. I mean, it's amazing. A lot of people don't understand, including myself. I didn't, now I do, the impact of having a stroke. I thought I was in good shape. I mean, they call it the silent killer. I mean, I was fine except I had a headache. I took aspirin and the headache went away. That particular day, I had a headache, I took aspirin, and the headache didn't go away. And then next thing I know, I couldn't speak anymore. Then all of a sudden, my right hand went. I was driving with my left hand. By the time I got to my house, my right leg went, so I fell out of the car. I called 911, but they couldn't understand me. Next thing I know, I'm in the hospital. I was bedridden for 2 months, fed intravenously by IV. I wasn't eating. I wasn't swallowing. Not to be able to play guitar was in my thoughts, as I had to get better because I have to play again. And now I still go to therapy 7 days a week, training on how to move my fingers. It's a tough journey. It's a new life. But I'm gonna make it better. Coming back, I will be playing again. Ask your doctor, check your blood pressure.
Testing. Why did the girl ask the mushroom to dance? Because he was a fun guy.
Hey, welcome back. We can continue our conversation. Next question, we're talking about trying to increase intimacy. And the next way to increase it is by releasing negative thinking. All right, so that's one way, or another way to increase intimacy, by releasing negative thinking. And why that might be, if you know, if you can think of why.
I think because if I'm always going to think negative, I can't be positive. You know, I can't see your worth.
Amen.
You know, most likely I can't see my worth because I'm thinking negatively.
Right.
To remove all the masks and to remove all some things that I thought of before that were fable, which is the truth. You know, it allows me to see a person for who they are. Really, you know, really, and to give myself more freedom.
One of the most intimate relationships we all have, whether we know it or not, is with the Lord.
Okay.
And He knows all about us, but what He says is confess your sins. You know what I mean? And what He's designed is that when we speak and confess these things, they actually flee from us spiritually. They leave. They no longer harbor or hold a place because you've let them go. You understand? And when you keep them, they be blocking your stuff all kind of ways because you spend so much energy on hiding them and supporting them that you can't even imagine how much energy you spend doing that. So when we confess it, it kind of frees us up. They no longer have control. The things I've confessed, you can't make me frightened or run from them anymore. You know, they're all out there. You know, my infidelities, they're all out there. They're all out there. You can't come and you can't blackmail me because you know what? I'm gonna confess. Yeah, I did it because my God is already forgiven. I ain't fooled Him. You may not have knew about that before, but He does. So we need to let go of a lot of negativity, and one of the ways is to speak it out and confess it. You know. And if you can't find the person to talk with them honestly, you can always talk to God. And I've even had God set me up with an impossibility of talking with somebody that I couldn't even get close to. All of a sudden, we're in the same room together, just him and I.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Because he needed me to get that thing out. And I didn't get off on the person. I ended up praying for him. You know what I mean? Unlocking some love that needed to flow not only to that person, but to everyone else. So that's a skill set that comes to us as Christian confessing, you know. And he says, confess your situations one to another, you know, and then let love cover a multitude of sins, because I'm gonna love you anyhow. You know what I mean? And what that does for a personal relationship is just great. You know what I mean? I can give, I got that off me. Well, that's okay, baby. I love you anyhow, because what I loved about you wasn't that. It was who you really are, you know.
You know, I interviewed someone, and God sets up all relationships, all of them. I interviewed this lady. It was more like a conversation. And in the interview, she gave me her cover letter. And I said, are you in recovery? And it was like a weight fell off of her shoulders. And this interview wound up being giving this woman a hope shot. You know, later on, I ran into this woman recently, and she said, you don't remember me, but you interviewed me. And she said, the interview was like a conversation. She said she cried, and I'll say I cried a little bit too. But I gave her hope. It was a hope shot that she needed. Yeah.
It also allows her to see a side of her that she may think that people don't see. So you did give her encouragement in spite of whether she got the position or whatever. It was something that she walked away more positive with.
Oh yeah. Took her breath. She was there defending. Okay, I used to be an addict and judging and da da da, and you just freed that thing. That thing poured out of her like water. You know what I mean? And that's where we need to be. You know?
And that's how God does for us. That's what God does for us.
Yeah.
He puts us with people.
Yeah.
And sets up the whole scenario.
So when you release the negative thinking, as you said, negative thinking blocks intimacy. That's what you said. And you describe how to release it. And I'm going to add on some other ways to release negative energy. Right? Be committed to release the need to be right in a relationship, to control, the need to control, the need to point out wrongs, or the need to keep scores. All that is negative.
Oh Lord, have mercy. And burdensome.
Yes.
Tiresome.
Yes.
And that can be something that goes back and forth. You did this, but you did that. But you did this.
Yes.
And you did that.
Yes.
And it's like a tennis match, back and forth, back and forth. So once you can get out of the way and say, you know, I'm at a place in my life is where I don't like drama. If you say 1 + 1 is 5, okay, thank you. Let's just go with it. It's 5. Yeah.
Just lead them right through it. Don't even stay there and block up that energy in there. Go take him right on through. Don't even stay. You know, because a lot of conflicts that flare up because let me correct you on that. I'm gonna stop you right there. Is what we're really saying. Let me tell you the right thing. Okay, and the Lord will down the road help them realize that was wrong. It don't take us, you know, but it takes us to let the Lord do those things and moving on, you know.
Okay, believe it or not, our show is about to come to an end in a few minutes. That's how time flew by like that.
Wow.
Really?
I want to thank both of y'all, and I'm
Thank you.
ask you to come back for the next show, and we're going to continue this conversation. And we're going to close on this note, right? God gave us life. His Son gave up His life. And the Holy Spirit guides our life. So let's try not to waste life. And remember, open eyes save lives.
That was great.
Go.